All right. Thank you for joining us on this random Friday. We normally run a game called Blood Rain on Fridays, but this week we will not because half of our crew is gone. So instead, we'll be just doing something silly and random. MattQuest. Four adventurers end up in a city, kind of on the outskirts of the known world, in a small tavern called the Red Dragon Tavern and Inn. You've each acquired rooms, and you've been staying here for a day or so. You came into the city in the morning, and you've been here for about a day. The bartender looks like a grizzled old frontiersman with wax in his mustache, kind of curled up into a nice kind of elegant look, but the rest of him is just shabby. There are a few wenches walking about the tavern tap room, serving farmers mainly, and a couple of woodsmen some food. And there does appear to be a young man kind of off to himself, possibly too young to be in a tavern's tap room, who is kind of going over a book, just looking over it by himself. Besides him, you have the woodsmen, some farmers, the wenches, and the bartender. And there is, of course, as is the case with all Red Dragon franchise establishments, a Red Dragon's head over the selection of alcoholic beverages on the back wall. You four have known each other for some time, but of course this is the first time some of you have met at all. So I'm going to just go ahead and give you the floor. And if you want to interact with me, the things that I've told you, feel free.
Should we start by doing a brief description of all of our characters?
That's a great plan. Yeah, let's go ahead and start with you since you suggested it. And then we'll go from left to right on Roll20 order. So, Rebecca, you're on deck. And then Tim, after.
Excellent. So, my character is Master Crumb. He is a very, very old monk from the far east. He is not entirely there. His memory has kind of been going for the last few years, so even though he's probably been traveling with all of these characters for quite some time, he may not remember exactly who you are, which is fun. Think of he's old in the skinny, shriveled up old man type of old, not big, flabby type dude. He looks like almost a skeleton with a thin robe on. Also, he rides on his trusty steed, the war turtle, Victor. So yeah, that's my character, Master Crumb.
All right, Rebecca.
Okay, so my character is Kung Fu, and she is an Earth Genasi and fighter, and I guess some of her background, so I'm still filling this out. She used to be a spy, and she's a bit of a crazy person. That's about all I got at the moment.
Okay, and just armament-wise, you carry a shield and your primary weapon.
I have a shield, 2 hand axes, and a trident, which is my primary weapon.
Okay, interesting selection. All right, next up, Tim, and then of course the titular Matt after that.
well, I have many names, but we'll go with Peppermint, Swamp, Sticker, Wiffleblish. I'm a swamp change, and right now, I met you all when I started to go on my, what was it now, the second or the third? We'll go with the second pilgrimage to write my third book, 1,001 Deeds You Could Find in a Swamp. The first one was 101 Myths About the Swamp, and the second was 1,001 Things About a Swamp. And anyway, I'm short of her, though. I'm 3'2", and I got a little pretty belly lack. But that's all covered in my green sweater and my green and blue plaid kilt with my component pouch hanging right in front as sort of like a protector piece and whatnot. And on my head, I wear this conical blue hat of sorts with stars on it and all. And you can see it strapped underneath my chin so that it can hold the weight of Hootenanny, my little owl friend right here, who perches on it. Anyway, I got tan skin, blue eyes, and swamp green hair and beard, and my beard is unnaturally unkept for gnome. They like to keep it all clean, but I don't got time for that. I'm too busy researching. Anyway.
All right. And of course, last but not least, Matt, if you would try and top that.
Yes, I do not believe I can top that. That was so beautiful. Hello, my name is Nate with Mice. I am a tabaxi rogue. I am the brains of this operation as far as I am concerned, but everyone else seems to think not. I don't know why. I am very smart with an intelligence of a number.
Right.
Yes, a number.
Writes the number down. 7.
I personally like going around and finding shiny things and picking them up and looking at them and learning about them, and then I just throw them away because I keep shiny things unless, you know, shiny things are boring. Why do I keep shiny things? They're not worth it. I'm not going.
You hear a jingle off to the side as you're kind of like looking at screen. You look and you see a shiny thing.
I would like to take the shiny thing.
So you see him kind of remove himself from like the camera view as he's talking to the camera like in a reality show. He comes back with like a handful of gold coins and a thing of keys, and he just kind of idly stares at them. But they're boring now.
Yeah, I'm just going to put them down there.
All right.
So anyway, that is me, the brains of the operation.
Well, first things first. I want a drink, but I don't know what they can see because I can't see it over the countertop. So I start yelling up at the bartender, "Hey, sir! Excuse me. What do you have to drink up there? I can't quite see. Or do you have a booster stall that I can step on up?"
He walks over to where you're at, and you can kind of see the shadow of him looming over you from like he's still on his side of the bar though. He's kind of like looming over you, and then you hear him like tap something inside of the bar, and a stool kind of just comes out of the ground underneath you and lifts you up to him at his level, and he says, "What do you want?"
I'll take the third one on the list. That sounds nice.
Walks over to it and grabs, the item. It seems to be just a bottle of wine, greenish in color. It's green. Would be the best descriptive I can give there. Hopefully some Star Trek fans will get that reference. And he pours you a glass of it and sets it before you. And he says that'll be 5 coppers.
Well,
I will approach behind, basically next to him, and say, "Little man not drink alone. Bring me glass as well."
Sets another glass on the table, has the bottle still there, and
I put a silver piece on the counter as he pours.
He picks up the silver coin and puts it in his pocket, steps away.
I would like to step up to the counter also, and I would like to say, can I get a rum and rodent?
He looks at you kind of strangely, and he says, "I can get you the rum if you can give me the rodent."
I will be right back. I'm going to see if I can find a rodent now.
Okay.
Have fun with big kitty man. You have fun.
You kind of wander off and kind of exit out of the tavern, just lost to everyone else. Yep.
So, this is some good wine here.
What was that?
Mugu by pan. Can I order Mugu by pan?
He looks at you and just kind of scratches his head. Is that a drink?
Chicken feet. Best wine.
I got wine.
Okay.
He kind of walks over and grabs a bottle, brings it over to you. This one not green, and pours you a goblet of purplish-looking wine. If you smell it, it smells like plum wine.
that looks nice.
Get your own.
I don't got any money.
That'll be
Okay.
two copper for the glass, or if you want me to leave the bottle, 1 silver.
I haven't decided yet.
All right. Well, he sets the bottle there in front of you and says, "I'll keep an eye on you."
Okay.
You can see that the farmers and folks, are having a round of some sort of game. The woodsmen are kind of keeping to themselves, but they seem to be kind of drinking and smoking pipes. And the young boy, like I mentioned, is younger lad rather, appears to be reading a book and also sipping from a mug. The cat finally comes back in empty-handed, unable to find any mouses. You did find a couple of cats out there, which you assume are doing the job that you were hoping to do.
Darn it.
Big Kitty, no luck with hunt?
I unfortunately was not able to find anything.
Too big for own good. If you little kitty, you catch all mice.
It's true. I've seen it before.
That's true. Can you shrink me?
No.
Victor might catch mouse for you. Victor, you go catch mouse for Big Kitty? The turtle is asleep on the floor and does not wake up. Oh,
Oh,
A wench,
Victor not want to get mice for you. Sorry.
a wench walks past you, like as you're kind of talking, and she trips over the turtle, and kind of like falls. Drinks kind of spill everywhere. She looks at the turtle angrily, and the barkeep kind of looks over to you, Crumb, and says, "Well."
Victor, you need settled down. You make too much noise on ground. You knock over lady.
The turtle.
Bad turtle.
The turtle's head literally does this. It goes. And just
I will
settles back
look
down.
straight at the bartender and say, "Don't worry. He learned lesson quick."
It's
Madam.
It's not that I'm concerned about all that. I'm just saying I just spilled all these drinks, and I don't think them folks are going to pay for them. So how about you just throw a couple coins down so you can pay for what your turtle messed up.
A couple of coins for what?
I have this. I have this. I would like to.
3 copper should be fine. They just got ales.
I'm just going to throw 3 copper on the floor.
Ah, Big Kitty pay bill. Fantastic. Take another drink, I will.
I threw
Pay the man.
You just threw 3 copper on the floor, and she kind of looks down at it
I'm just going to turn and grab my rum.
like there's no problem with that dismissive
She said throw
treatment.
them down.
Fair enough. She
I found your cat.
she eventually that cat's awesome. She eventually does acquire the coins and moves
Oh
back
no!
to her
Don't you
task,
do that?
getting more beverages. The farmers seem to be kind of in a tuffle. There is a bit of an argument about recent hand or play of whatever game they were playing, and they seem to be kind of arguing pretty heatedly. The woodsmen are kind of looking at this a bit more intently, kind of focusing on it like there might be some trouble here. And the boy closes his book.
well, during the midst of that tussle, I realized I could send Hootenanny out to go find some mice.
Alright.
So I
Yes,
took
that is
Hootenanny
true.
off its perch and fluttered him off.
You guys see the owl that's been perched on the gnome's shoulder for some time just dart out the window. The barkeep kind of, shakes his head at the shenanigans there and kind of at the people at the bar or at the table that are having some problems there. As it looks like it's about to go to blows, he kind of slams his hand on the bar, and the second that happens, the chairs kind of like come out from underneath the farmers and snap their back legs up over their like front ends and kind of grab them with them and pull them down to the ground. It seems that the chairs are automated, and they hold down the farmers as they are cooling off. And the barkeep says, "What's it gonna be, boys? You gonna quiet down and drink your drinks? Or you wanna go outside and punch each other?" "We want our drinks! We want our drinks!" Eventually, he kind of like hits the bar again. The chairs let them go.
I would like to say currently I'm preoccupied with a very shiny looking bottle behind the counter.
Okay. Are you intent on acquiring the
No.
bottle, like by ill-gotten means, or like means that you wouldn't, think to, or means you know, if you don't know, actually, I mean, what are you going to do?
It's so shiny. I must have it.
You kind of just like look at it and look around and see that there's a way to get back behind the bar, and you're not even thinking about trying to hide that you're trying to get the bottle. You just walk on over there, and the barkeep kind of walks over to you as you come behind the bar and kind of places his hand on your chest, taking you out of your like focus on the shiny thing, and he says, "Can I get you something?"
That bottle. I want it.
It's gonna be 2 gold for that bottle.
I give the man 2 gold.
All right, and he walks over, grabs the bottle, and hands it to you.
I just hold the bottle.
Okay.
I walk back and just sit and stare at it.
As you're kind of like looking at it, you make nope.
Nope, you make it.
You're able to make out the words, but just barely. It says vintage about 20 years ago from current date, but it says Gygaxian Vineyards.
I write that down in my notebook.
And draw a little like picture of the bottle. A very crude sketch of a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm like, is there anything else on the bottle?
No, not so much.
I am done with this bottle. Here you go, man.
He takes the bottle back and sets it back on the counter and says, "Well, if you need it again, there it is. You pay."
Wait, I just watched that happen, right?
Yeah.
Why you put bottle back with still alcohol in?
The bottle's actually,
but the hamster's dead.
just based on placement, the bottle's relatively close to where Kung Fu is sitting.
Oh, good. I was hoping to drink it. My
So
bottle now.
you kind of reach out and grab the bottle. It looks like the cork is actually kind of set underneath wire, and the wire is kind of twisted tight to hold the cork on. And again, it's about a 20-year-old bottle of wine. Let's see here.
Should probably take 2 gold out of them.
You would actually be kind of familiar with this this vineyard, just based on traveling, and a decent intelligence score compared to other people, and a good roll. So you would know that this is actually a pretty decent treat, a really good wine.
Okay.
Hard to open, but really good.
So, like, how to open the bottle.
Okay, so you kind of stare at it for a while, and you're really having trouble with like where the twist ties would go, like how you would kind of pull the twist ties off, and it's actually kind of becoming aggravating to you to the point where you're thinking you might want to just pull the top off with bare strength. Again, I won't say that you're doing that unless you want to say that you're doing that.
Yeah, let's find out what happens.
All right, as you kind of grasp it and kind of try and pull at it, you pull really hard, and it slips out of your hand, its back end, like a soap bar, and hits the floor. And you're kind of like, like gasp as it hits the ground, but it actually bounces once or twice and then kind of just starts spinning. And the barkeep kind of looks over at you and says, "You paid for it. You can do what you want with it, but do you need help with that?"
Yes.
Okay.
Well, can I give a hug to the person that the bottle stops spinning and pointing at? Hug.
Hold on. I got something for this. Yeah, I don't know why I pulled it out, but it seems to work out perfectly. But this is a scatter die, if you're familiar with 40K. So yeah, it would point at the gnome.
Oh. Big hug.
While I'm getting hugged, I wave my head around and touch my hat and go, "Wah!" and cast Mage Hand to pick up the bottle and bring it to me.
All right.
Hey.
You have the bottle kind of floating there with your spectral hand as you kind of command it with your hand as you try to, do that while being grasped by a Earth Ganassi, presumably a lot larger than a gnome.
And I try to hand it to the bartender to open up because I want to try some of that juice.
Oh, he said, I wasn't offering my services to help you open that bottle. I was just saying that you might need some help opening that bottle. And he kind of looks to someone else. I don't know how to open that bottle. It's the only time.
Oh, this is great.
It's the only
Come,
time.
bring Master Crumb bottle. I do bottle, I open bottle. I have cook's utensils. It shouldn't be difficult for me to open a bottle of
And I
wine.
make hand it over to him.
The spectral hand kind of floats over to you and sets the bottle out on the table. You kind of give it a quick look over, and you go, You pull out a corkscrew, you pull out a fork, and you pull out like a buttering knife, like just, a flat spade knife, and you place the fork underneath the wire, place the knife in there and kind of pull away, then kind of twist the fork so it unloosens it just a bit. This causes you to be able to pull the wire off, which didn't have like a small grip for you to do so in the first place. Then you take the corkscrew in and pull out the cork. And it has a sweet smell, but kind of like an old smell. It smells earthy too.
Smells like the swamp, even better.
I'm sorry, what?
Tiny man and mud person, bring me glasses. And I'll start pouring the glasses out for everyone so we can all
I
have a cup.
put down my glass, which still has rum in it.
Can I toss the other wine like over my shoulder and then put my glass?
Yeah. Just you get the remainder that was in the cup. You mean?
Yeah, it's a tradition,
I got you. You kind of do that.
You should have looked back first.
You kind of toss it over your shoulder, and you hear a splash. When you turn and look back, you see the boy kind of grasping his book and just wine all over his face, and he kind of goes, well, I was going to order a drink, but I guess a free one's nice. And he turns around and walks back to his table.
You really know how to make new friend, huh?
That was one of the nicest gestures I've seen.
He sits at his table and opens his book, and you kind of notice, Papivic, you kind of notice that he's reading the book, and he kind of like says some words, and then kind of makes gestures at himself, and the wine kind of, like the wine staining and dirtiness and the wetness kind of dissipates. It just disappears. And you recognize the spell as prestidigitation. It's a cantrip.
I can do that too. I hop off my stool and I hobble over to him.
All right. There are two other chairs that are at his table as well. And as you kind of are moseying over, he kind of looks at you nervously. You hop up into the chair and he kind of looks at you and says, "Hello, friend home. You and your company are a lively bunch."
Yeah. We got a few screws loose, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's interesting. But you seem to be, the adventuring type. Is that true?
Well, yeah, I'm on a pilgrimage to yes, and we do adventuring things along the way.
Interesting. Well, my name's Skip Bunswalk, and I'm interested in going to there's ruins outside of the city that I'm really interested in investigating. I know there's something there, and there are some orcs that have been causing some of the farmers trouble. And just as he says that, you kind of get that shadowy effect over you again, like someone's standing over you. And as you kind of look behind you, there's a farmer, and he says, "I don't suggest you go out with that boy to those ruins. Them orcs will kill whatever comes round. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't go to the ruins. The orcs who keeps them pies. You shouldn't travel out to their pastry kitchen."
Oh, what kind of pastries?
I already said pies. And he walks away.
I would like to know, does any of the farmers or the little boy have a shiny thing on them that I could procure?
That one that was just walking away looked like he had a bag of coin. You can hear it jingling, but you can't see the shininess.
Coin does not interest me. I am looking for other shiny things.
Shiny objects and implements aren't really prevalent. Yeah, not really.
So, did you have is this are these ruins perhaps in a swamp of sorts?
A mire, yes.
Whoa, yippity googa! What help, what help?
The you seem to be having you have his complete attention, and he's kind of about to start telling you his tale. But switching over to Master Crumb, you kind of idly are drinking this new wine, very tasty by the way, and you notice out of the corner of your eye that where you left Victor, he's not there. And then you kind of quickly scan the room, and you realize that he's gone underneath the table where the farmers are at, and he appears to be just kind of idly licking their boots clean of like the hay and refuse of farm work that seems to be present on their boots.
I'll allow him to continue. He seems to be enjoying himself.
Okay.
I will keep an eye there for
Yeah.
when they notice him doing that. I'm gonna now focus my attention that way, but I'm not intervening unless necessary.
Okay. All right, and then you would also see this as well, Kung Fu. The turtle is underneath the table. You're also enjoying the earthy wine, the Gygaxian wine.
Okay, nice. Self-cleaning. You've got a personal shoe liquor.
Just in case.
Like, this is good, if we ever come across like big mud pits or anything, the turtle will clean everything. I like this.
Fair enough. And then last call for the Catman. Again, nothing really shiny in the place.
I have gone to start cleaning myself.
Okay. He says to you, "Yeah, a mire of sorts. It's just outside of the city. It's kind of where the river kind of bleeds into the earth. They call it Neighbor's Bog."
What do you know about Neighbor's Bog?
Well, there's a ruin in it that's currently occupied by orcs, and as the eccentric farmer stated, they
Hi.
they seem to be keeping themselves in an old kitchen area. There are rumors that, and these are simply rumors that the farmers have been making up, but they say that these orcs take up all of the people that they can find out in the farmlands and what have you. Any people who are not traveling close enough to the roads to be maintained by or to be kept watch on by the vigilance. They're taken by the orcs and are baked into these pies, infernal pastries. But these are just rumors that the townsfolk are spreading about. My lore seeking has told me that in that kitchen there's an old recipe book, and I doubt the orcs would have any interest in that. But it's from the old days, the old world, and I'd be very interested in getting it and possibly seeing what I could make of it, seeing what I could make from it.
That sounds like a plan. So, we need to get down to the details, so that's where the devil is. So, I'm sure me and my compatriots are more than helpful and handy and would gladly help you out here. And, I'm probably gonna go there anyway, no matter what, but, what would be the matter of, compensation, as it were?
Well, I would say I could certainly pay you if you'd like.
Well, but what's that book you got there?
It's just my spell book. I'm a student. I trained a little bit in the city of Gygax.
Oh, I reach over my shoulders and I pick up my spell book, which almost seems too large for my body, and slam it on the table. Like, what do you got?
Just the common wizard spells. Nothing special. And you're kind of looking at him, and you realize that the reason why he's not terribly talkative about it, and based on what you saw of his casting of prestidigitation earlier, he's a novice at best, and probably not going to excel much beyond that status.
I see. Well, it's okay, little young one. We'll help you out, and we'll figure all that out later. Hey, everybody, come on over here. What was your name again?
It was Skip. Skip
Skippy
Bunswalk.
over here. Skippy Hanswalker has got some jobs for us. Come on over.
It was Bunswalk.
Budweiser. Okay. So Skippy Budweiser over here. Oh, by the way, my name is Papovic Swapensticka Whifflish, and I hold out my hand.
And you kind of anybody who's like the camera, like he kind of turns to the camera and looks at it like, and he got my name wrong.
Gotta love those Jim from The Office moments. Just
Yeah. But yeah, you call over the cat man.
So wait, you said his name
Shakes
is
your little hand.
his name is Skipper Bugfinder?
Check about right.
He kind of just it's Skip. It's
Yes, Skipper. I
Skip,
understand.
where are we skipping?
Where is your
What-
ship?
Exactly. What are we skipping?
What?
Yeah. You
No,
said skip, skip what?
where's the ship? He's a skipper.
I have a small boat.
Oh,
He
I
is
see.
skipper. Is there a Gilligan?
And
Do
he
you have
got-
a best
We are
friend?
going
After saying
Yes, there
I
was
have
the
a
Gilligan-
small boat
the
and
Gilligan
perpetuating
Vineyard.
the skipper like wrongness, you know, like using the name wrong, he kind of goes, "Oh shit." Oh, I fucked up. I fucked up.
I would like to say I did actually write on my notes Gilligan Vineyard instead of Gygaxian Vineyard.
Makes sense.
gotta love that autocorrect.
So, Skipper over here, there's an old problem in some swamp ruins,
That's
and
it.
he needs us to go get a cookbook for him.
Who's making dinner?
He is. He's gonna make us a feast afterwards.
Oh, fantastic!
I
Sounds
suppose
wonderful. Tell me, how much squirrel will be in it?
it depends on how much the recipe calls for.
Right answer.
Good choice.
So the question is, when do we leave?
Well, I'm ready to go now. And he kind of smiles at you with a young boyish sense of adventure.
Yes, little baby men, lead us to large green things. And he like goes to gather Victor. He's like, all right, I've still got the bottle. I'm gonna drink on the way, but like, fucking let's go, baby.
You walk over to the table and reach underneath the table and start pulling out a turtle, and all the farmers are like, "What the fuck?" And this turtle just like as you drag him away.
I would also like to say, John, I'm still holding my glass and intend to walk out holding the glass.
Okay. Fair enough. As you kind of start kind of gathering together and start moseying that way, you do so. As you kind of like walk, your hand kind of stops in mid-space as the cup seems to be kind of bound to this place. And you're kind of like, looking at the cup
I would like to keep pulling on the cup because I do not understand what is going on.
the barkeep gets out from behind the bar and kind of walks on over to you.
I would like to put both feet against the door and pull with
Oh yeah,
one of my
no.
mouth.
It's able to sustain your position there. Like you are holding it in space, and the barkeep kind of looks at you as you're in that weird position, kind of grabs a hold of the cup, pulls it in like with way less effort than you out of your hands, so you kind of slump down to the ground, and he says, "Thank you for your patronage," and just walks away from you.
At that
How does
point,
he know my father?
Wait. Hold on. You do know that word. You do.
Even with a -2.
You do know that word.
so at this point, did Hootenanny come back with a mouse or not?
No.
I wonder where he
Actually, when you come out of the bar and look up, kind of like seeing if you can see him like anywhere, he's actually sitting on the crest of the vaulted roof of the tavern, just looking down at you. And when he sees you, he goes, whoo, and then just snaps down to your shoulder.
It's okay. We'll find some later to help out little page of mousies.
He kind of like leans his head in towards your chest, and you hear, and you reach your hand up, and a little mouse pellet pops out.
Oh, wonderful. I come over, I'm like, here you go. And I hand it over to Paper's mouse. Here's your mouse that you wanted.
It is a little pellet of mouse fur and bones with a bit of bird in goo. I guess that when they come out fresh, they're a little kind of tender.
I will pick it up, and I will see if I can find any meat on it.
Real talk. I only ever messed with owl pellets like
Yeah.
in elementary school, so I never saw one that was like fresh. So I don't know how that works, but I presume they're damp.
Moist.
No, we can't use that word.
Moist.
It's no good. It's no good.
Rishi?
What about soggy?
The
Would you
touch,
describe a
the
fecal
feel
matter as
of
soggy?
moist.
Anywho, the boy kind of puts his book into like a side pouch that he has, and he kind of leads the way. He doesn't seem very talkative. If you're trying to engage with him, but it does look like he's heading towards the outer gates of the town. Yeah. Did I name the town?
No. Sorry.
I
Fuck
believe you
if I-
said it, but I don't remember it. I never wrote it down.
Fair. Me neither.
Wait, our town has a name?
The town that you were just in, yeah. It probably
How
does.
about the town with no name?
It could be that. But you have yet to ask where you were, but go ahead.
I believe you actually said something about it sounding similar to Gygax, but my character does not know that.
No. This isn't the town of Gygax. That's where he trained in magic.
Gotcha.
Because it was hard. Basically,
Yep, I
anything
do
that's
not know.
anything that's really difficult will be called Gygax or Gygaxian. It's just easier for me when you're winging it. So the boy is walking. If you guys are following, it's probably mid-afternoon.
Do I see anything shiny?
No, not really. But he does eventually come to a stream. Not really a river, but not quite a creek. Somewhere in between. And it looks like he does have a boat. The boat has it's basically a slightly longer rowboat. Not a long boat, but a slightly longer rowboat. It does have a pole standing in its center, kind of like a mast, but hanging from a hook at the top of the mast, or a crook rather, at the top of the mast is a lantern, a hooded lantern. And he kind of moseys up onto his boat, kind of looks to you guys and says, this is how I'll be taking you to the ruins.
Are there any shiny pebbles?
Pebbles?
No, I'm asking you. Are there shiny
Yeah, I'm
pebbles?
sorry. No. No, not so much. They're kind of like, they're slick, like smooth stones, but nothing that's like, which could be shiny in the right light, but there's nothing that is specifically like actually shiny.
Can I pick up one of those shiny things and or one of those rocks and start kind of like glintering it like it's shiny at
Okay.
him?
Yeah. Yeah. It catches his eye.
I would like to start batting it.
She
Come on, go closer to the water.
leads you to the boat. Okay. And you guys get onto the boat?
Before I do my little routine. And cast mage armor.
You see kind of this glow of reddish arcane energy appear around Papovic and kind of like becomes hardened and then make kind of like a clinking sound, and then it just dissipates and becomes invisible.
Alright, I'm ready for the horse. Let me at him. And I pull out my dagger.
They're not on the boat, Pap.
Always be ready for anything.
It's only about an hour away if we row decently enough. Looks like you're pretty strong. You could definitely help with that, the boy says. Unless
I imagine.
you're
I've been
opposed to
riding-
it. Sorry.
Sorry. I was gonna say, I imagine I've been riding on Victor this whole time because they're
Yeah.
just walking on foot. So without like changing stride, everyone like stops and does their little like, I'm getting on the boat thing, and Victor just keeps slowly walking, like doesn't stop. You guys are
Trundling
still
on.
talking. He just keeps going like into the water, then just slowly starts pushing
Well-
his way forward, and like
What actually happens is they get there, right? And they start having a conversation, and he starts saying, you know, hey, get on the boat, da 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 da. And you aren't even there. And eventually it comes to a point where they kind of start looking around for you, but they see you coming up. And there's just this quiet moment of them all just staring at you as you ride the turtle slowly to the shoreline. And then it kind of, once it enters the water, it starts moving a little bit faster and kind of moving a bit more with speed.
Victor had the bottle of wine left, so we wouldn't be able to drink it. Plays with Mice said that we were drinking the wine.
No, I said I imagine he is drinking.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm like
Oh, yeah,
mostly
Crumb is.
done with the bottle and like falling asleep on top of Victor, just like he's going straight and I'm not guiding him at all. Like fucking Crumb is like wasted, like bobbing up and down because you all left him with the bottle and like
But
that's fun.
sitting on the turtle's like sitting on the ground, even when it's in the water. It has a decent balance to it. So, I mean, eventually you can just kind of curl up in the fetal position on its shell and just kind of like hang out there.
I imagine it's more sprawled out, like flat
Yeah.
on his back. Just like instead of curling up, it's like just
That works
fucking wasted.
And the turtle seems to be kind of just idly watching the boy and you three as you kind of decide whether or not you're getting on the boat.
And if
How
I'm not
about
bored with the
stand on
shiny
the
thing from
prow?
Strangely, the boat looks like a railroad. Like it looks like it's on a railroad, and the boat itself looks like a train.
Not a train.
It kind of looks like as you're inspecting it. Let me explain that better. Have you ever been to like an amusement park and they've got those log runners? You know what I'm talking about? As you're kind of looking at it more carefully, it kind of looks like underneath the water and kind of ways out. It looks like it's kind of set on a track.
This is like a ferry.
Or the DM
Okay.
is railroading you. Your choice. Whatever you
Yeah,
want.
can you just wink really hard when you say that?
Oh,
I don't know if they're getting it, John.
Sorry. Oh, there it is. Oh. I can't wink very well.
I am now bored with the shiny rock, and I would like to get on the skimmer's boat.
Okay.
You-
Skimmer now. Fair enough.
Skimmer.
Skipper Dandelion. Away!
You guys get on the boat.
Skimmer skiff.
Get on the boat. And sure enough, it starts
Skimmer's got
moving.
on the skiff.
But it does move with a bit of a click, 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 click for the first bit, and then it kind of picks up some speed and starts moving through the water. It seems to kind of enter into a more narrow space, and the ground around it, which was kind of like rocky scree that you'd see near a stream like this, which is typical, instead kind of gives way to higher-ended edges that are basically just roots and old leaves that have been kind of compacted into walls on the sides of your stream. And the trees beyond the stream are standing high above you, and as it was later in the day, are providing an amount of darkness which is a bit uncomfortable. To the east, there is kind of a bit of a glow. Well, I'm sorry, to the west, because the sun sets in the. There's a bit of a glow coming from there as it's starting to get later.
One day, I would like to get that glow and put it in my pocket.
I'm doing hand gestures. Is that what you're making fun of?
Sorry. No, I was playing with the cat.
Okay. I'm a hand talker. But anywho,
Me too.
you would be assisting in the rowing process. The boy would also be rowing as well. At this point, it's pretty easy though. Feels like this path, though it doesn't look like it's been trafficked very often, kind of feels like the path that you're supposed to be on. almost as if this is where the DM is trying to force you to go.
What is this DM thing that you are speaking of?
I mean,
I'm
what?
confused.
I mean, what? So again, if leaving the table open to you before I explain the next bit. Nothing.
Oh man, my character's unconscious. I don't know what you want from me. Like, I'm fucking dead on the back of this fucking
I
turtle.
am
Like,
looking-
everyone else can do their own thing, but I got shit-faced.
I am looking at my storybook and seeing if there is anything in there recently that is catching my eye.
No. You really are focused on that bottle though of Gilligan's wine.
But I already wrote down the information about that.
Yep, the bottle's actually still sitting in it's sitting in Master Chrome's hand.
Oh yeah. I imagine like a true alcoholic, he fell asleep still holding the bottle upright.
Oh, yeah.
Like next to him. Like there's not a drop that slipped.
100% no party fouls. Yeah, he is
Exactly.
the king of holding on to his, well, not consciousness, but definitely his liquor.
Oh yeah. He's old. Nah.
He's an old
You
soul.
lose your edge. Know what I mean?
While I see Master Crumb fast asleep on the back of his war turtle, I wave my head around and touch my hat and cause the air to shimmer around him and make him look like a really big backed turtle. And you don't see Crumb anymore.
What spell are you casting?
Minor illusion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the turtle definitely has more of a bat look, as it's kind of floating on after the boat. Very strange. In the water, it kind of almost looks ray-like. Okay. You kind of start to feel a bit of the water splashing up onto you as you're like laying there, and you do wake up. Sorry, I meant to say, Master Crumb, you feel a bit of the water kind of splashing up onto you, and you do kind of wake up and kind of like turn your head and attention to the boat. They've lit the lantern by now, and beyond it, you can see that kind of set in not exactly a lake, more of just a bog or mire of low water. There seems to be kind of a rise of rocky stone that comes up out of it, and rising up out of that small little patch of land is a bunch of ruined stone. It looks like it was formerly some sort of keep or fortress, possibly a castle. From this angle, it just looks like you're looking at one portion of a fortification. But ripped apart to some degree. The image that's kind of placed on the, yeah, there you go. But it looks like it's a two-story ordeal from what you can see. But it doesn't look like, from what you can see, it being a bit dark now, that there's much movement or anything in it.
I would like to steal the lantern.
Okay, you take the lantern off the hook. The boy kind of looks at you and he says, once you guys pull the ship ashore, I'll wait here and be ready to cast off. So if we need to retreat in a hurry, we can. And he kind of nods his head, and then he just kind of stops moving.
Still alive?
Kind of stops moving. Like he's not really interacting with you at all anymore, or
I
entertaining
think
anything.
he's saying that our part with him is done.
Well, as I get out of the boat,
Okay.
I take my finger and I dip it in the bog.
All right.
I smell it and I taste it.
It has a kind of peat-like smell. It definitely is a bit harsher than just typical water, and it kind of has like a at the top layer a bit of a scummy feel.
Swamp-like, where I'm the triumph. And I take a handful of it and pat it on my beard.
Yeah, it feels good. It's cool, and I mean, it definitely has kind of like a staying presence once you get on there. And then kind of like you realize, you're kind of getting close to the shore with your rowing, and the boy's kind of segmented himself away to letting you perform the landing and all of that. Anything you want to do?
I jump in the bog.
Okay. The gnome hops off. The gnome kind of hits the water, and the turtle kind of glides past the gnome, with slowly waking Monk atop, and kind of starts pulling itself up onto the shore near the rocky edge. There, the small.
I was slightly fascinated with the lamp, and so I, still holding it, will now also follow the gnome wizard off the side of the boat.
Okay.
And then freak out when I hit the water.
You hit the water and realize you kind of drop a good 4 feet in because the boat hasn't been pulled up to shore yet. You're kind of a little off of it a bit, and you're kind of, the gnome's kind of, if he's touching the bottom, he's also not seeing the top. So he's kind of
You see my hat pointing atop the water.
Right.
And it's slowly moving forward.
Every so often, gnomish eyes kind of popping out. And the nose going, yeah.
The hair on my back goes up, and I start running as fast as I can out of this water.
That's fair. Again, it only goes up to about your waist. You're, 5 foot or so?
I'm 6'5".
Yeah, not even. It's probably like at thigh level. And then Kung Fu is the only one remaining on the boat with the boy. Hasn't just dove into the swamp yet.
Yeah, no, she's gonna wait. Like, I'm gonna wait until we dock and I'll get off.
You get up to the shore and no one else is really pulling the boat to tow. So I mean that's you. Sorry. I'm asking you to keep track of the mundane issues. I'll just go ahead and guide it for you. You hop off the boat once you get into lower than ankle or just above ankle level waters and pull the ship onto the shore. Boy's still atop it, and he kind of just pulls out of his pouch another lantern and sets it on top of the hook and lights it. It's identical to the one that you have now.
I would also like to take that lamp.
Okay, you go over and you grab the lamp, and he kind of looks at you, kind of nods his head. You have 2 identical hooded lanterns, and then you see him kind of reach into his bag and pull out another hooded lantern, set it onto the hook, and light it.
I would like to drop the first one and pick up the third.
He reaches over and grabs the first one and puts that onto the hook.
I am now happy. I have 2 new lamps.
All right. The turtle kind of just stops and kind of looks towards the cat, and then slowly kind of trundles towards him, trying to keep pace with Plays with Mice. Again, by this time you're kind of awake, annoyed probably, but awake. And then you guys are all docked on shore. And again, as I mentioned, the ruins up ahead, they're probably some couple of 100 feet from where you're currently positioned, maybe 150 feet or so. But because of the shadows and darkness, even with dark vision, you can't see specifically into it.
So, after I'm done crawling out of the bog water, commando style,
Saturated.
I get up. Oh, yeah, perfect. I got the essence of the bog in me now. And I go over to Master Crumb. And I say, Master Crumb, hold me on your turtle back. I'm going to let Hootenanny look ahead of us because he can fly.
Crumb, when you look down at his face, he's got the hat is kind of pulled back a little bit as he kind of looks up at you, and it kind of dips off his head a bit. But you see that right on his forehead, unnoticed to him apparently, there's just this huge dark green line on his forehead, and it seemed to be just kind of pulsing on his head. Take 1 point of damage, Papovic.
Will do.
It looks gross.
I'm still in a haze, but all he wants is me to put him on the turtle. So I guess can I just reach out with my stick and shuffle him onto the
Yeah. Yeah, he can kind of fit on there with you. If the turtle goes to full speed, though, if it starts trying to get somewhere quick, that gnome's falling right off.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I don't have any equipment or anything.
Yeah, there's no barding or anything. No.
Yeah, cool.
The reason why it has such a high AC is not because it's a horse in armor; it's because it's a damn turtle.
Yeah.
But anyways, so the turtle kind of goes. The cat with 2 lanterns, kind of following behind. And so apparently the calmest of the lot. Kung Fu, after getting the boat settled, do Earth Ganassi have dark vision? I don't know, actually. No, they don't. So do you want to grab a lantern as well, or are you just going to follow with the cat?
Me?
No, I think I
Oh.
should take a lantern. I feel like
Okay.
it would be fun.
You grab the lantern off the hook and kind of start moving that way. You hear a metal clink as you see an identical lantern placed on the hook.
Okay. Can I ask him how he's doing it?
He
Like,
doesn't answer your
where did you get
questions.
that?
Yeah, he's in true NPC mode with
Oh,
no
okay.
more options to click for
Oh,
conversation.
okay.
Everything's
And
been
goodbye.
grayed out.
Yeah. You guys
Want some more water in your face?
head on up to the keep there. You actually hear some talking. It seems to be in the common tongue, and it seems to be just common chitter and chatter, like not any like weird orcish or grunts or anything. Nothing crazy like that. But it does sound like there are people up ahead.
What does Hootenanny see from the sky?
The bird goes up into the air and kind of looks around. Do you want to warg into him, find familiar style? Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm having him held by sloppy self.
Yeah. You snap into him. Go ahead. Oh, you're talking to a cat. And
You shut right the fuck up, though, man. That was awesome. Yeah, you. And she was like, "Hey," and you were like,
hey, if you got something to interject, that's how I
It
roll.
was awesome. I was.
Yeah, hold on, I'll be right back. Sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Captain destroying blinds.
The bird swoops down, like kind of looking into what's going on. And from what you can see from bird's eye is that there's a line of people of all different types of races. There's a couple of tieflings and kind of fanciful gear. There's a hobgoblin group, like 3 or 4 of them. There's a couple of goblins. There's a human. There's just a bunch of people in a queue, like into the keep.
And what do I see with the keep itself?
It appears that the portion that they're kind of moving into looks like there's a descent down. It almost looks like a cellar door that kind of goes underneath the keep. Based on what you can kind of tell there, and with your understanding of general architecture, you assume that it's into like a basement or perhaps like an underground kind of segment of the castle. You'd also notice too, sorry, hold on. You'd also notice too, as you're kind of gliding back up over it, kind of moving back around to circle your group again, that there seems to be a bit of smoke kind of coming up out of the center of the ruins of the keep. It's a little too far outside of your 100-foot limit to kind of see into, but you assume that there's some kind of fire or something kind of emanating from inside of the keep.
I stay warped into the owl as whatever happens at the party, as we can get closer to see what I can see.
You can still talk while you're in the familiar state, if you'd like, but you can't really move or do anything besides control. You can talk, though. You can't hear what anybody's saying to you.
I see hobgoblins. I see goblins. I see tieflings. They're all lined up nice like. And they're going into this basement, and there's smoke. And I think the orcs might be running a bakery out of the keep. And they're selling their human pies to them. But we'll have to get closer so I can see more.
As you
They're
kind of...
making pies.
Yes.
What kind of pies are they making?
What a that you got you heard all of that, and that's your fucking question. All right, man. Fucking
You, as you guys are standing there, like, idly looking, you hear kind of a sound coming from, like, up the coast a bit. Like, not too terribly far, but it looks like, from what you can see now, as you kind of look over in that direction, especially the owl, you can see that there seems to be, like, wooden planks across the mire that have kind of been planted in at small points of land and kind of create this bridge across the mire that seems to connect where you kind of came from to where you're at now, but in a longer hand manner than just straight up the waterway. And you see what looks like a wagon, not a very large one, just a single horse-drawn, like actually a single mule-drawn wagon. But it appears that it's kind of overflowing with boxes, which have a single kind of strange mark on the sides of them.
I see that way. or I see up the ways a bit a bridge of sorts with a supply cart, and it has weird markings on the boxes.
You guys can
Maybe we should
hear.
go that way.
You guys can hear the cart coming. As you kind of focus in on the boxes, you're looking at that symbol. You're trying to get an idea of what it is, and you really can't get a good idea of like what it looks like, and you don't really recognize it either. Okay.
I don't know what they're saying, so I'm still warmed.
I think we just broke the DM, guys.
No, I'm fine. I haven't done this in a while because I don't use a DM screen. But back when I ran games at tables, I'd every so often just be like, I am a vampire. Oh, look at me. Oh, I'm so cool. Just put your DM screen on your head. It helps. Like, you look
I
intimidating.
would like.
So it's the process of osmosis.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what we'll call it, John. Intimidating.
Tell me I don't look cool.
You don't look cool.
You definitely look something, that's for sure.
Fair. This man. True.
I would like to wait until the cart is closer, and then I would like to examine it for shiny.
Examine it for shinies. Okay.
Yes,
You kind of
I'm
see the
imagining it will stop.
you see the cart kind of coming around, and it seems to be kind of heading up towards the ruins. So you'd have to move up a bit to kind of intercept it.
I will start moving forward
Okay.
towards the cart.
You can
Unless
see
someone stops.
you can see as you're kind of approaching it that there is a man on the cart. Looks like a just commoner, and kind of looks over to you and says, "Oh yeah, you here for the pies?"
Yes, we are looking for oaks making peas.
Can't help you with that, but if you're looking for orcs making pies, they're just up the way.
Yes, that is what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just go with
You got a bit of a thick accent. I didn't understand what you said.
I am sorry. Here, if you want to talk to someone with less of an accent, I will point to the Genasi.
Ah, ma'am.
I am now going to search through the cart to see if I can find any shinies while he is hopefully distracted.
You literally go, here, talk to her, and then you're like, and you start wandering around slowly, and you're looking directly at him, and he's looking directly at you, and you're just like, and you make it to the cart, and you're like, and he's like, stop it.
What? Am I doing something wrong?
Hey, quit! What are you doing there? That's materials for the pies. Get out of here.
Hootenanny comes behind the guy's head, and he's
Yeah.
just sort of flapping in place, looking at him.
And he kind of just starts swinging at it with this hand axe that he has in his hand. Hey, get out of here, bird! You damn devil bird!
That cause a distraction enough for Blazer's Mice to hide.
So the bird's kind of like hanging out over his head, and he starts wackadoodling at the thing with a hand axe, right? The bird literally flies down and away, and like lands on Plays with Mice, like right on his head. Meanwhile, he's got his dagger out, and it's like set inside of the box's lid, and he's there like looking at the guy still, and he's like. And as he's looking at him, he's just like slowly prying the box lid open like a cat. Like, you know when you yell at a cat and they're like pushing something off the table? He's instead committing an act of larceny. He's like, and the guy walks over and just slams his hand down on the box and says, "Get!" And the Plays with Mice is like, "Nope."
Hand goes up, I start running away.
Yep. Nope.
Beautiful.
Don't want any of that.
Can I pull out like the other bottle of wine and a glass and just like start drinking and
Yeah.
watching?
No, sure. Like you just
Okay, I've got a question. Are you just
After-
rolling?
after a fashion, you're like, wait, where did I get this cup from? And you look at the cup, and it's the cup from the tavern, and you're like, why did it stop? And then as you're doing that, you kind of look at it some more, and like you put some liquid into it, and you take a sip, and once it's emptied, it just flies away. And you still look at the bottle, and you're like, yeah, it's.
Brilliant.
Gaming fixing his problems.
That was good. That was good.
How'd you get out of there with that cup? How did you get?
That's a good question. How did I get out of there with that?
I don't remember. Like you said you were walking out with the bottle and the cup, and I'm like, with the plum wine specifically, like that you didn't pay for it even. So anywho,
I like put it away before we left.
Fair, but yeah, the guy in the cart kind of after chewing off the cat, he just kind of ha, and the cart starts going again.
Thanks for the memories.
You kind of continue on.
At this point, I unwalk, and I'm back at my old shelf.
Okay. The last thing you see is like the cat's face as it's sitting on his head still as he's running away. Like he ran away. Al's still just. Oh shit! I better hold on.
So, should we go get Blazer's Mice or just keep going to the kitchen?
So as you're saying that, like you kind of look around and say, "Should we go?" And looking at everybody else, and you can see that place with mice is like in the background, just kind of like this, like.
All right, well, I got so far behind us. Let's go.
So you guys are going.
Yeah, we're going on.
Yes, we are continuing.
Okay, you guys head on up that way. The cart's a little faster than you, especially Master Crumb. And when you finally get up to where you can see what the situation is and people talking and such, you see that there is a line, a queue that's been formed, and it does seem to have lots of different people's in it. It looks like it's probably somewhere around 20 or so long, and that's just to get to the entrance. The cart kind of wheels up near the entrance and kind of stops and takes some effort to start turning the wagon around. What do you guys do?
I approach the goblins and speak to them in their native tongue.
The goblins are kind of further in the line, and the guys behind him in line say, "Hey, hey, no cutting or skipping queue."
I'm not skipping. I just want to talk to my friends over there. I'll get back in the line once I'm done talking. SWAT change honor.
Goblins kind of look at you like they're confused, and the other guys are just kind of chill about it. But if you walk over to the goblins, they look at you and they say, "We're not your friends."
Yeah, well, sticks and stones are tomatoes and tomatoes. But anyway.
The other one goes, "What the fuck's this gnome talking about?"
While people are distracted, I would like to see if there are any shiny things I can steal on people.
So you kind of see the cart again, and you kind of look at it, and you just kind of start walking over to it, ignoring the calls of, "Hey, no cutting in queue," just focused, determined on whatever it was that you were gunning for. And you just kind of hop up onto the cart, and everyone in line is watching you. But the guy who was actually pulling the wagon has taken one of the crates down the steps and is going down into the keep. You go over to that same box that you were at and just start prying at it. You are not being stealthy at all.
Stealthy with it. Like, I have such good stealth, actually.
I rolled a 1 the first time, I rolled a 4 the second time, and I rolled a 2 this last time. So you're prying at it, and you get the box open, and inside you see that there are these shiny metal pie tins.
I would like to take a pie tin.
You take a single pie tin, realizing that there's probably close to 100 in there.
And now I will leave with the box left open and the pie tin in my hand.
You kind of walk away from it with the shiny pie tin. Everyone in line's kind of looking at you like confused.
I would like to start drawing the pie tin in my book.
Okay. The man kind of walks over and comes back up out of the keep as you're kind of getting to the group. and we'll discuss what happens there. Master Crumb and Kung Fu, you kind of enter the back or towards the back of the line. What are you two doing?
Good. I'm glad we getting food. Very hungry. Pie sound good.
And you
It's
get
kind of like still a little wobbly.
get in line.
Yeah, I forgot why we're here. I'm seeing a line for pies. Like,
Sure.
I'm getting in line for food because we just got drunk and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's pie time for
Well,
drunk.
it's later than that.
As far as I know, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it's fucking pie time because I couldn't have been out that long. Just fucking, let's do this.
This
Fair.
is the most organized group I've been in.
And then Kung Fu, how about you?
Well, I just had a really nice bottle of wine too. I'm just gonna stick around for food.
Hop in line.
Hell
All right.
yeah.
She
She knows why we're here and she's still on board. Like, let's eat people pie.
The line's going at a pretty slow pace, and there's actually a point where you guys are standing in line and the queue kind of like steps forward, that the turtle kind of goes too fast for the queue and bumps into the guy in front of you, and he kind of turns around and looks back at you, and he's a tiefling, and he has a female tiefling companion with him, and they seem to be kind of wearing kind of like just really just loud clothing, yellows and greens kind of contrasting. Like if you've ever seen a contrasting color wheel, just imagine that there's this a lot. Like there's every color that contrasts with the other color is just smashed on these people's clothing. And he kind of looks at you and he says, "Huh, what are you doing? I don't understand. Why did you bump into me?"
Oh, this Victor. He want to say hello. He not very polite.
There's
Say hello, Victor.
plenty of strange people who come around looking for Kelgar's pies. But sure, fine. Hi, Victor.
Can you tell us a little bit about Kelgor's pies?
Kelgar's pies? Yeah,
Thank you, Kelgor's pies.
he makes great pies. People come from hundreds of miles just to have a taste. They're magnificent.
Oh, so he only sells tastes of pie. Okay.
Yes, he only opens up once a week, too. Or once a 6-day, or once a 10-day, or whatever you call your length of time. I don't know. It's different wherever you come from.
Oh, yeah. So, by any chance, do you own a mirror?
Own a what?
A mirror?
No?
No? Okay.
This strange
It explains the outfit.
Are you insulting me?
The character, not you.
The character says, "Are you insulting me?" And he starts reaching for his blade. As he's doing so, his wife kind of smacks him and says, and you're kind of like, what the fuck? Like, kind of back off a bit. Does anybody here speak Infernal? Didn't think so.
Nope.
You don't know what she said, but it sounded harsh.
No, I was just wondering what the thought process was that went into your outfit and how to dress like this.
Well, you could probably use some tips on fashion.
I like to pull from different cultures. Her armor.
We just buy the most expensive, whatever they're selling.
Oh, okay, good tips to know.
You kind of stand in line there, the two tieflings ahead of you, and not very interesting, really. Not really interesting at all. The cartsman, you see him kind of come up, and he sees that the cart's been kind of messed with, and he kind of shakes his head, closes the box, looking over at the cat who's still just holding the pie tray, looking at himself in it, every so often, thinking that it's not his face, it's someone else, or another cat like him. And he seems to be kind of left alone with it. The guy keeps getting the stuff loaded down into the cart. You also see that another person's come out of the keep, an orc who, or half orc possibly, you're not sure, who's helping him with the loading, or unloading rather. Okay. So just so I have it, Crumb and Kung Fu are in line. The cat is also kind of close to that proximity. It could be mistaken that he's in line. And then, what
I am
was
generally in the proximity of those two? Yes.
sure. What is Papavic doing? You were trying to talk to the goblins, and they were kind of dismissive jerks.
I'm pissed. I'm talking to them in Goblin, trying to find out more about these
Oh,
pies.
you're speaking in Goblin?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Then they're actually taken aback, and they say, maybe we do know this guy. And they kind of look at you, and they say, well, I mean, if we know you, I mean, we can just say that you were with us. And they're speaking in Goblin because they don't think anybody else speaks it. And they kind of look at you like, if you want to just, stand with us in line, it's no problem. We get our pies first, for sure. But, I mean, do you want to?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right. And these goblins have no voice or accent now, but they did a minute ago. Because they're talking in Goblin now, so they sound completely normal. If he were to start talking in Gnome, he would just sound like Tim.
Exactly.
This is a Gnomish accent into Common. That's how that works.
And Goblin.
Well, yeah, apparently so.
Snow, what's your secret ingredient in these pies?
Oh, we don't know. We're just picking some up for our chieftain. We're going to get some for ourselves, and we're going to get some for the chieftain.
Oh, who's your chieftain? Maybe I've met him before.
Oh, he's a bugbear.
Oh.
His name is Sakis.
Sakis, you say?
Sakis Burlap.
What a wonderful name that is. Is he made of canvas?
What?
Does he wear canvas?
Don't we all? And they kind of look at you as they're wearing pretty much just like sack clothing.
Good point.
Sackcloth and ash.
You kind of look down at your own robes, and it's like, yeah, I am wearing a bag with a hole in it. Your head explodes because you realize that clothing is just bags for people.
Oh man.
Interesting things to learn in spots. I really recommend
Clothing's just bags for people. But yeah, you've never heard the name before.
Okay.
I would like to say I am now bored with the pie thing, and I am going to go find Papa Bitch.
Okay. Papa Bitch appears to be standing with two other gnomes.
I would like to walk over to him.
Actually, he seems to be standing with two other halflings, because you think Papa Bitch is a halfling.
Yes, I would like to go over to him.
Okay, you're there. Everybody else has told you to stop cutting in line, but you're confused.
It's okay.
You don't even have. You're like, I don't even have my sword out.
No, it's okay. I'm just going to talk to my friend. I'm just going to talk to my friend.
No, you're like, I don't even have my sword out. I'm gonna roll an intelligence check. Man, every time I've rolled these, I've rolled over 15. So yeah, you know exactly what they mean by cutting in line.
Smart as shit, but can't pull off stealth to save your goddamn life. What is wrong with the rogue?
He has a
Our
7
rogue
intelligence.
is broken. We got a fucking broken cat.
He has a
Stop
7.
using that dice for me.
He has a 7 intelligence, just 7, and I've rolled over a 15 on every time. I'm like, you know what? You don't know this. You don't know this thing. You don't understand this concept of social.
+8 in my stealth.
You can't get over a 10. You can't get. You can't get under a 15. But yeah, you understand what they mean. You walk over to the 3 halflings.
So, my character, Kung Fu, is getting a little bored of hanging out in line. Is there a way, because she used to be a spy, to, like, for her to stealthily sort of investigate what's further on in the line?
So, from what you recall, having been told that there is a smoke billowing out of the keep, there has to be another point of entry, at least the smokestack. You're not sure, like, it might be possible to go down the chimney depending on the heat of the smoke. It's also kind of cool out, so that might be beneficial. But there might be another entryway as well. So if you want to break away from the queue and kind of start wandering, that's perfectly fine.
Yes.
Okay.
I have passive, okay. I don't know if I need to use it.
Yeah.
I passed without a trace. I don't know if I need to use it.
Passive perception of 27.
No, pass without a trace.
Pass without trace. Oh, okay.
I didn't know if I need to use it or not.
If you're trying to just keep yourself from being tracked, yeah, but I guess it would help too. Yeah, if you want to use it, you can.
Okay.
That'll definitely help out. Yeah, you kind of start sneaking around the rubble and ruins, investigating a bit. We'll get back to you here in a second. Just going to double check with Zach. You didn't have anything you want to do, just waiting in line. And then Tabaxi, you're still hanging out with the pie tray. And finally...
Oh, no, I threw the pie tray away. I'm just standing with the wizard.
Well, the wizards... Yeah, that's right. You threw it away and walked over to the goblins. Okay, you're there. What happens?
Wait, are you talking to me?
Oh, no, these other two.
Oh, okay.
The cat walked over to them.
Hey, Dead Mouse. These are our friends. What's your name?
Ah, I'm Beeps. And I'm Creeps.
So that's what
Hello.
Watson?
What?
Deets, Creeps, and Watson.
Beeps.
Sheets?
And they all kind of, like, everyone who's close enough to hear you getting the names wrong 2 or 3 times kind of look at you, and just everyone's shaking their heads and slowly doing one of these, including
Okay, so let's
the
look at
goblins.
this. It is Beats, Keats, and Doug.
Everyone literally is just this. This is the whole world. The whole world around you appears to be nothing more. Like the ruins grow a hand and put it over its face. It's so.
So tell me, Doug, where did you get your name from?
So let's go ahead and go back to the Earth Ganassi then. You're wandering around in the shadows, kind of moving about, and you can see that stationed in like old, like crenellated areas or old kind of like broken apart like watch posts. There are orcs with very nasty looking longbows, kind of standing watch and looking out and around, keeping a vigilant guard of this area. But they don't seem to notice you. And every so often you kind of press yourself against the stone and kind of glide against it very easily, very naturally, moving from place to place, keeping pretty stealthed and not found out. What you end up finding is that the place that they're walking to seems to be kind of the back end of what used to be a very large hall. And the exterior wall of the large hall is still in place, with bits of it kind of remaining, like the top portion of it still remaining. But there does look like there's a lot of sunken in areas where the roof is kind of caved in. In a couple of these places where, columns still stand, holding up nothing now, there are some of those guards standing out and about. In some of the places on the far wall, like away from you, or kind of like not too far from you, there are places where the roof of it has kind of left a little bit of a lip on the inside, where there are also places where those orcs are kind of standing. But in the center of it all, in the hall, there looks like there's a broken chimney stack that looks like it might have continued on up through the hall when it stood, and that's where the smoke appears to be kind of coming up out of. It's probably about 200 or so feet away, like just the stack, from where the people are entering down into the keep.
Oh. Trying to figure out what to do.
Sorry, hold on.
I said I was trying to figure out what to do.
Oh, okay.
Can I get closer to it, or that would like?
Sure. Yeah. You can definitely try to get closer to it, and you do manage. Basically, you kind of see that the orcs, probably more out of habit than like any kind of trained practice, seem to have kind of like a regular turn to them. If you've ever played a Metal Gear Solid game, basically if you were looking at the map right now, you would see the wedge kind of just turn away from you, and you'd kind of dart towards one of the pillars, do one of those for a second, wait for the wedge to move again, and move to the next one. You make it up to the smokestack, and you realize that there's a fireplace, but the fireplace is not being used. obviously, and it looks like the fireplace doesn't enter into the smokestack. It looks like it's kind of a vaulted set or a connected flue. I don't know if you're familiar with chimneys, but basically you have the one that's coming from the floor below, and then against it, on the outside of it, you have the one that goes up, and after a certain fashion, they become one. So you could go into the fireplace, up its chimney, then down the whole chimney if you wanted.
I have climbing equipment, sure.
Okay. Once you get in, it's a bit warmer than outside, but it's not terribly hot. It seems that they have it, the baking oven at a low temp, from what you can tell. And you think that with some effort, you could probably climb your way down, spider style. You gonna give that a go?
Yeah.
Okay. Not very far in, you realize that the edges of the wall around you are slick with just, you know, black mess, and you kind of start slipping against it, and you kind of start coming down faster than you had anticipated, and much louder, and you hit you hit down at the bottom, not falling straight down, but kind of sliding and then dropping the last 10 feet into the chamber. You hit what appears to be a fire pit with several metal kind of rows, metal, I'm trying to think of the word. My brain's not working.
That?
Well, there's it's not, it's like basically cook pots, but instead of cook pots, it's kind of like a grill that's been set up, but it's just iron bars that have been kind of connected on the sides. It's not a very narrow grill that you're landing on. They're wide open spaces, and it seems that set in between some of these grill spots, these bars that are running across the fire length, are pie trays where the pies are being baked above the fire. And when you hit it, there's kind of like a splash of pie mess and kind of a rolling of you off to the side. And you take 2 points of real damage and 5 points of fire damage.
So, total 7?
7 points, and then you kind of roll off to the side, or you can stay on the fire if that's your if that's how you want to live your life.
No, I want to roll this.
Okay, you roll off. Once you hit the ground, what you realize is you're standing, or like actually kind of laying and slowly getting up in this very large kind of kitchen hall. Near you, there are counters. There's cupboards on the walls, and there's a very large orc standing there in front of you, looking at you. He's wearing a white apron, which seems to be kind of covered with flour, and he has a tall white chef's hat on his head. He has a huge scar on his face, though, and his face is clean shaven, but you can see that there's a bit of hair kind of like coming out of the top of the cap, like on its sides, and it looks like if you were to pull the cap off, it might out. He's holding some sort of implement for cooking. You said you had who was the one with cook utensil? It was Zach. Zach did.
Yeah.
So you actually don't really recognize whatever he's holding. It looks kind of like a spoon.
Okay.
And then you also see that there are a couple other individuals in the chamber kind of looking at you. And then you can see the front of the queue off behind a counter.
You know, I just couldn't wait. Heard so much about your pie.
And they're kind of looking at you with jaws dropped, and then he kind of walks over to you, holding this this tool, and he says, "You've ruined several of these pies. It's gonna cost you." And he raises the weapon to attack you. He brings it in, and it hits you square in the face. It doesn't seem to damage you at all, but if you've ever played with a whisk, if you've ever been hit by a whisk, you would know how this feels. He slaps you in the face with a whisk. A bit of the jelly and flour, which is coating your back, is now on your face, and he kind of hits you with the whisk, and then snaps his fingers, and he says, in something in orc, "All right,
I
And
speak orc.
oh, you're not even close to where she's at, though.
I know.
I made it inside. Woohoo!
All right. So, what would you like to do? From the sounds of it, he said something as a command to them, and they seem to be drawing weapons.
Show them money and say like buy fives.
You pull out your gold. You pull out your gold, and you say, "I'd like to buy 5." And he kind of looks over at the thing. He kind of raises his hand up. 1, 2, 3. 25 gold, and I'll let you walk out of here with one of the ones you smashed.
Like, I don't know what to do here. Can we negotiate?
So you're attempting to negotiate right now.
Not really not gonna go well, but
You've got so much bargaining power. This is going to go great.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. From your currently obviously great position in the negotiating table, tell me what you would say to talk us
Enlighten
down.
us all. Enlighten us all.
As can we negotiate? Wipes the jelly and flour from her face.
really silly. It's just like can I like pull out another bottle of wine and be like, half of the gold, the bottle of wine, and I'll take the pie?
Wait. Hold on. Let me check something real quick. Okay, so you pull out the one bottle of wine that you have, and then from nowhere you seem to pull out another bottle of wine. And hold on. Yeah, you realize that the bottle of wine that you're pulling out was off of the farmer's table, and you don't know how it came to be in your pocket. But you're like, I've got this bottle of wine, and how much coin do you have?
How much in total?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Set the bottom of your sheet.
15.
He says, for that bottle of wine, 15 gold, you can take the pie there and you can get out.
Fair enough.
He takes the bottle of wine from you, takes the coin. The guys with weapons kind of walk over, and you see that they're just like the orcs that were up above. They kind of hold their weapons. You take the pie as they kind of hand it to you. It's really hot, so they give you just a piece of cloth. You can kind of actually they don't give you shit. What would you like to do to kind of help with the hotness?
Can I carry it on my shield?
Yeah, so you pull your shield out and have it now settling there. And you kind of make your way out. Everyone's kind of looking at you, grimacing. And then you hear orc yelling behind you. It doesn't sound like they're yelling about you. It sounds like they're yelling about something that just happened. And yeah.
I'm not making my way back.
Okay. As she kind of exits out, there's a lot of grimacing behind her. And you can see that some of the people in the line with you guys as she's coming out are grimacing as well. But before we get to that point, definitely a lot of dead time in there before we get to it. A lot happened. So let's get us time-wise, chronologically, up to where she'd be coming out. So you walked up to them, the 3 halflings, plays with mice, and they're talking. And then he says your name wrong, because that seems to be his thing. And you guys start talking. What are you talking about?
Well, I am talking about asking what sort of things are inside of the bakery. I am curious to see what is in there to try to figure out ahead of time that Plays with Cat would like for himself.
They kind of say, there's a bunch of orcs, to shrug, and they got a kitchen. And
Are the orcs shiny in any way?
There's a book that they use. Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong accent. We're goblins. There's a book that they use. That's the wrong goblin accent, but whatever. We're going with it from now on.
That's fine. Plays with Mice does not care if the accent is wrong. Plays with Mice now knows he wants to take a book, though.
They kind of nod their heads and look at you like, yeah. Okay. What do you say, Avik?
Well, I'm sorry if we've deceived you, but where was license and inspection? Here's my badge. And I use minor illusion to pull up what looks like might become sign of symbol of authority. And we're here to investigate the health and standard qualities of this orc bakery. So,
Are you saying that to the goblins?
yes.
They look at you and they say, "We're just trying to get pies." I thought you were our friend.
I am your friend, and that's
Oh.
why I don't want to make sure the pies won't poison you.
Well, you should go on ahead.
Alright, so that's where we're gonna go now. Come on, play with mice.
Okay. You walk past them. As you're walking down
Plays
the
with mice
steps,
follows.
and everyone's kind of like, there, right? You see coming up the steps towards you guys is Kung Fu. She's holding a shield, her raft shield. And on top of the raft shield is a pie.
Ah, evidence.
Kung Fu, let us through. We are men of authors.
I've written 2 books.
Yes, see? He has written 2 books. We are men of authors.
So you move past her and let her go up?
Don't go too far, though, just in case.
Wait, what?
If you hear me cry out for Hootenanny, it's time to go. As in go is run down here and help.
I would like to say, your shield is looking very shiny.
No, it doesn't.
My shield.
No, it doesn't. It's made out of wood.
Yeah.
Her shield is literally shaped like a raft. Like
I mistakenly mistook some of the grease for shiny.
yeah, okay, fair. If you've ever played like original Legend of Zelda, like when you go across the water with a raft, she's got that on her arm. Like but yeah, you guys go down. As you make it to the bottom of the steps, a huge orc just steps out in front of you. He's wearing plate armor, and you didn't see him because he wasn't stopping you. Because you didn't come the way you were going. He would stop you. He comes out in front of you, and you just hear this loud like rattle of chain and then thud. And when you look at him, he's in plate armor and he has a huge flail, and he just dropped the ball of the flail to land on the ground in front of him, and he says, "Can I help you?"
I look at him and I say in Orcish, let us through. We are authors. We are the authors.
Looks at the cat. Looks over at the little gnome. I don't know what you're talking about.
You do not know the authors, the people who come to inspect the pies to make sure that there's nothing in them that is poisonous? The authors.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I turn to him, show him the badge.
Oh! And then I cast minor illusion and hold up our badge. We're here in common. I say, we're here to inspect to make sure there's no riffraff poisoning or doodads going into pies.
As I said, we are the authors.
I've written 2 books.
Strangely, as you pull out the badge and kind of show it to him, he looks at it and goes, "Oh!" Like there's some sort of recognition, but like there isn't. But it seems like he thinks you think you know what you're talking about. And so he goes, "Of course, I'll take you to Kelgar. He can show you around." And he basically pulls his flail up and settles it onto his belt and wanders into the place, leading you in. As that's happening, I'm assuming Kung Fu, you kind of get out and kind of move over to Master Crumb.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are in line who see you pass that are giving you looks are now kind of looking at it more like, oh, we're so jealous, and their tongues are kind of watering as they see the pie, and the aroma of it's gotten to them. And Master Crumb's just kind of sitting on his turtle and just kind of heading into the line. Since you've left, and since they have now left, Master Crumb, you see that 2 other individuals have actually come into line behind you. One of them appears to be, and this is before she gets to you, by the way, so if you want to interact with them, you can. One of them is kind of like an elf, wearing kind of greenish-looking attire, and you didn't see her wander up to you until she was right on you, because she pulled her hood off when she got next to you. And after her comes this man who looks like looks very familiar to you. You actually recognize him as one of the farmers from town. Not the farmer who was really creepy and talked to Popovic when he was talking to the boy. Just some other farmer, but you saw him. One of the ones that got its boots licked by Victor.
If they don't say anything to me, I'm not gonna say anything to them.
Yep.
So I'm just kind of. I mean,
Wallflower.
Like, yeah, I mean, he's fucking old school Russian. Like, man, he's not. He's
Right.
doing his thing. Like, this is not the first time he stood in a bread line. Know
Got
what
it.
I mean?
Yeah. She
You get
comes.
in a line, you don't know what it is. You
She-
find out when you get at the front.
She comes out.
Right.
You've made your way not terribly far in to the line. You probably closed half of the gap that you were away from the door by this point. But she comes up and she's got one of the pies. You also see not too far along after her, after the other guys go in, and as you're about to engage, an orc comes out with a hammer, a number of pitons in one hand, and a large steel grate in the other. He goes out and he starts heading around the keep.
Ominous. I suppose I have to dress the fucking giant Earthman who's walking up with a pie.
Earthwoman.
Earthwoman. I'm sorry. Earthling. Is that a
Earth person.
I suppose that's fair.
Earth lady? You there. Rocky. I call you Rocky now. You Rocky, I play your Ivan Drogo to your Rocky. Come here. You bring me pie?
You have wine left?
I thought a little man take bottle wine away. He go find other little man to talk to. You bring me pie.
You must have wine with
You notice that there are, like, just looking at her as she's kind of moving up, there's a single bottle of plum wine kind of sitting in a pouch loosely and kind of opened out. But your eyes are so keen and so perceptive for booze that you actually notice that there is a second bottle in her pouch, which would actually be a fourth bottle in her pouch that's just sitting there idly.
Bliss, why ask me for wine, silly Rocky? You have plenty wine on person. Come, join me with Victor. We eat pie.
The
Now
tur-
tell me, this baby lamb pie, this cow pie, this mud pie. You not bring me mud pie. You bring
So-
me mud pie.
So
don't you?
the
We're
turtle,
going to get nowhere near finishing this quest.
real quick, you're pretty close. So the turtle, right? It just does one of these, right? And then it just starts heading away from the line, just slowly making its way back towards the shore. And the pie going along with you haven't reached into the pie and gotten anything from it yet, right?
No.
I asked her if it was baby lamb pie or cow pie or mud pie because I think she brought me mud pie.
Well, the one that she got, just so you know, she had landed on. So you would notice that the guts of it have kind of come out a bit, so you can actually see what it is. From what you can tell, it appears to be some sort of vegetable or fruit. You're not sure. That kind of has like a stringy kind of layer to it. The best way I could kind of describe it would be think of like celery or like rutabaga maybe, or like sometimes mango can be kind of well, no, not really, not mango. No, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Celery was fine.
Celery
Yeah.
works. Yeah, it looks like it's some sort of stringy
Celery
vegetable fruit.
pie?
Yep,
Could be rhubarb pie that kind of looks like
rhubarb.
that.
That's the one I wanted.
That's what it was? Okay.
Rhubarb.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if it's fucking there, if she's not stopping me, I'm eating as Victor walks away, like just fucking
Okay.
finger full in and like,
Yeah.
Do me a favor
yeah.
and wait for me to roll this dice, because I was going to ask you to roll a dice, but I don't want you to. I want to roll.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
eat the
that's-
you eat the pie, and the second you put it in your mouth, like you feel like if this was eaten by a lesser man, or woman, or alien, or whatever, it would cause them to fall madly in love. And there's this magic as you taste it, like as it enters your mouth and you kind of swallow it down. Like, this is the best food you've ever had. This is so wonderful. and you kind of stop the first time you put it in, and it feels like the world just kind of washes away, and you're just standing there, you and the pie on the shield, just together. And then you kind of shake it off, and you kind of look at it, and you go, it's really good. It's really fucking good.
This tastes like first cousin Natalie when we were 12.
Do you take a sampling of the pie as well? Kung Fu?
Yeah, but I'm being a little more civilized about this and put wine with it.
Okay. You eat it, and you kind of just start moving the pie away from him, and you do not want anyone else to have this pie. This is your pie. If he tries to reach for it again, you might come to blows with him, is where we're at.
Cut him! Cut him!
So can I like sort of stand there with my trident ready to like weapon?
She draws her trident and kind of brandishes it against you as she's holding the shield and like.
All right. I not touch food. Jesus.
You kind of like see her going to that. She's kind of put the bottle of wine back in her pouch because she doesn't have the hands to do it, and you just kind of reach slowly and just grab the bottle of wine from her. Okay, fair trade.
Yeah, but this worked for me. Belly get full with water or with food?
As you kind of have stopped there and are kind of doing this exchange, you notice that the young boy, Skip, is actually making his way up to you guys. And we'll cut from you. We'll go back to the guys down in the kitchen.
Okay.
You guys are walked over to the chef. We've had his description before. He says, Kelgar, these two, they seem to be really official, and they're here to check for, what was it again?
We're from licenses and inspections. We got a complaint from Fatty's Burlap that there might be some odd funny business going into the pies. So we're here to inspect the premises for cleanliness and quality of ingredients and to make sure everything's above board.
And I am here to inspect the books. That is my job. I inspect the books. Let me see the books.
They look at you, Tim. They look at Popovic, and they're like, okay, go ahead, take a look at what you need to look at. Then they look at the cat, and they say, you can stand over there.
But I need to look at the books. That is what I'm here for.
You can look at them from there.
You rolled shit for me again, didn't you? Stop using that dice for me. Can I play?
Okay, look. I have 2 dice, okay? 2. And I don't roll the same one twice. So I've never rolled the same one for you, but it's always been the same one.
That makes it even worse.
Can I try to stealthily move through to find the book? And dear God.
Sure.
Please fail.
You kind of move over to where they told you to go to, and then you see that Popovic and them start kind of like engaging. The other people in the room start going about their business, and you actually took the time to just sit there and go and pay attention to everything. You pull out your book and you write, I should do it now. And then you shut the book and set it back in your bag, and then you start doing one of these. And you get up. Hold on.
Wait, am I doing my own theme music?
No. You get over. Yeah, sure. But no. You're not. You are moving like that, but no one is looking at you. You have basically set the perfect right time to start moving stealthily, and you kind of see the book, and you kind of move over to it and get low, and you kind of start wiggling your back feet. And you reach over and you grab the book and you put it in your bag, and you just go back over to the spot they told you to go to.
I am just going to keep the book. Keeping the book in my bag, just acting like nothing happened.
Okay. Popovic, if you want to go ahead and carry on with, he basically just leads you to all the spots and shows you that everything's kept. And you would see that he also says, as you can see, the symbol here, it's definitely from one of your brother guilds. It's health and safety, and we make sure that everything is inspected by them before it's brought out here to the keep. In the bog, and we make sure that everything's served out proper. We don't sell any of our stuff outside of the town because, as you understand, the pies lose their potency and They're no longer edible after a day's worth of time, so they have to be eaten right away. And you hear what he says, and you think back to the goblins saying that they were going to take one of the pies back to their chieftain. Whatever. Must not be very good when it gets there, or maybe they like it like that.
That might explain a few things. Interesting. Now, what is the main ingredient for the pie?
It's perfectly bored. As you can see, it is inspected by agents in the health and safety, and so I can't really say it aloud with all these people here.
Hey, go over to the corner then, and you can whisper it in my ear. Here, let me get some paper, and I pull out some parchment from my scholar's pack, and I put it down, and I get my ilk wing out, and I said, just write it down right there, and we won't let anyone know. I'll burn it after I see it.
He kind of looks at you just like nervously, and he kind of just starts looking around, and
I start prodding him with the quill pen, like, it's okay, I'm official.
He leans in and he kind of whispers, Genesis root. And you kind of hear him say what he said, and you've never heard of it.
Okay.
And he says, I have a promise from health and safety, and I assume that carries over to your department. But what I just told you, that is privileged information.
Yep. Nope. Not going anywhere. A quick question though. Do you know a Skipper Dandelion? He's told some awfully tall tales about you orcs.
It sounded like an ingredient. A lot of people outside in the nearby town, in the city just on up a ways, they don't understand what's going on here. Some folks do. We've had a couple of the sword bearers from the city come out this way, and you would know that the sword bearers are basically just like town guard, and they're also the watchmen. They're known as the vigilant if they're on the roads. They're called sword bearers. Is kind of like an overall encompassing term. But he says they're well aware of our presence here, and they've inspected us before as well. So I assume that this is just another one of the rumors getting ahead to one of the departments, and you trying to find out what's going on down here. And we're completely, we're not doing anything illicit. Nothing crazy.
Now, have you ever thought about investing in marketing and advertising? Because,
No.
I think you might be able to pull a bigger crowd if you actually get the word out that you're above board at all with your with you know what, wink, wink.
Well, yeah, but well, the truth of it is I'll be completely honest. We don't want too many people knowing about this because a lot of people are always trying to take our. And he looks over to the table where the book was. And then he starts saying something at work. Real quick, Matt, are you there?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
You just image went away. Okay, do me a favor, and I want you to make me. Oh no, I don't want you to do anything. I'm gonna make you.
Yeah, you do it.
Holy shit. Okay, so before this is all going down, before he
Are you
says.
gonna roll the 1 or 20? I'm guessing it.
Before he says anything, before the shit is about to hit the fan, you are perceptive enough and listening enough and insightful enough to understand they're about to find you out. Shit is about to go down. What would you like to do? You see that there are two ways out of this place. The way you came in, or up the flue of the chimney.
I am going to go up the flue.
Okay.
Oh no.
I would like to try to just like bounce off the walls up the flue back and forth.
All right. You start climbing up the chimney, and you don't have to really climb. You don't have to do anything to do so because you got to climb speed. You're able to get there though without being spotted as you make your way up into like the fire area. But as you go up, you get to a point about 30 feet up, and you can kind of see like just above, like maybe 10 more feet. But there is now a solid grate of metal that looks like it's been set in place by nails or pittons. It's been hammered into the stone. You actually hear up ahead of, like up above, you can hear a, like someone like who just did a lot of work.
Is there any way I could possibly use my thieves tool to?
Let's see here. Oh my God, you're rolling hot now. You reach, you kind of set your cat feet into the stone and kind of look down, and your book like kind of like is waggling in its spot. You kind of reach and tuck that in, zip that bag closed after pulling out the thieves' tools, and you pull out a set of calipers and kind of set them around the pitten head, and then you kind of pull down on them to kind of loosen them from the stone. Once they've kind of been pulled loose from the stone a bit, you kind of just try to waggle the steel grate, and then you finally pull the steel grate out of its setting in the pittons. It weighs a bit though, and let's see.
I've got a 12 strength, so.
I'm trying to think here. Bear with me here.
Yep, that's fine.
You're not sure, you're looking around, you're not sure, without you kind of coming up with an idea, how you're going to climb out while holding the grate.
Is there are any of the pittons still in the wall?
Yeah, they still are.
Can I try to hang the grate on 2 of the pittons?
Yeah, you set the grate onto the pitten. It seems to be kind of just loosely sitting there. More than enough to hold it. You climb up. Okay. Once you get to the top and kind of look at the guy, you can see him not really paying attention to you. He's sitting there. He's got like a towel or a cloth that he's kind of wiping his sweaty brow with, and he seems to be eating like some sort of food. And then you hear a loud clang, clang from behind you inside of the chimney. When you look down real quick, you see that the grate fell off of its pitten, having been loosened out of the stone, and it kind of falls out and smashed into the fire below and the metal bars above it.
Rewind to feline.
Wait.
Feline agility to just run.
Hold on, that's fine. That's fine. Rewinding back to and basically sands of time, whoosh, back to where we were. You are having that conversation because everyone's trying to steal my book, and he looks over and he goes, "What the?" And then you hear a chang chang, and then smash as the fire just splatters about, and the room kind of goes dark as the fire's kind of like quenched out by the grate kind of smashing everything atop it. What would you like to do, Papa Vic?
You know, that reminds me of a funny joke.
Well, hold on. Sorry. I didn't say it well enough, so I'm going to roll a perception check for you. You realize that right now it's dark enough and it's like kind of confusing enough that if you were to just, you would be able to get out of here.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I do that, and as I hit the stairs, just to be safe, I cast Grease directly where I was, so if they tried to run after, they might slip and fall.
Okay. You cast Grease kind of like right at the stair point. It actually goes underneath some of the people who are waiting in line who are now kind of panicking, and they kind of just tumble and fall into it as well, making more of an obstacle. And you kind of just on up the stairs.
Hoot nanny!
Okay, and then reverting back to the scene that we were at before, you guys are at the shore with the pie, and Kung Fu seems to be taken into it's like it's hers. This is her pie, and you've got a bottle of wine, so you're just like whatever. And then the young boy's kind of walking over to you, and you hear the cat kind of coming up very quickly, and you also see the gnome kind of coming towards your group. And just as the boy kind of enters over to you, he says, "You have one of the pies. Even without the book, I should be able to reverse engineer it. I thank you for that. But now I must reveal my true form." And he rips his face off. And reveals that underneath, he appears to
It
be...
was actually John Travolta.
He appears to be some sort of demon.
It is abominable.
Some sort of demon. You also notice that as he does so, his form kind of like changes a bit from a young, like lithe boy to kind of a like squat, more pudgy kind of demon creature. And once he does so, he kind of starts walking over towards the pie.
This is This is gonna end well.
You feel compelled all of a sudden to bring him the pie. Kung Fu. The pie is yours, and you want it, but now you want to kind of bring it to this thing.
11. Well, can I fight the urge? Because I really want.
Oh no, you failed that thing that you just said
okay.
that you were trying to do. That's why you're trying to give it to him.
That's
That's
what
what-
We've already moved on. We've already moved on.
Okay, then I just messed this up. That's all.
That's the glory of me being all the dice rolls. I just tell you, oh well, it's shit time now, or oh you did really well, instead of you that whole leading up to that process. This is good times. I like this. This is fun. But anyways, yeah, you want to give that pie to him. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Tabaxi, you see the scene. You see the boy rip his face off. He looks like some sort of demon. Noam, you're kind of wandering out as well to this as well. And then Master Crumb, of course, you see it.
Master Crumb sees the boy rip his face off, like stops mid-drink, like looks at the plum wine, then looks at the crazy bitch who gave him the plum wines, like, I don't... Yeah, what the fuck, man? Like, I thought it was just wine. Very confused.
And then,
In my defense, I didn't give it to you.
A demon killed that small boy.
okay. Matt, what would you like to do once you kind of come to the scene? You're probably like 30 or 40 feet away. You can see the scene as it's playing out. She's probably about 10 feet away as she's kind of walking slowly over to the demon with the pie.
Well, as I said, I believe that I saw a demon kill that small boy by ripping its own face off.
Yes.
So I want to attack the demon because obviously it is evil.
Yeah. And you're... How are you attacking it?
I would like to take one of my daggers and just chuck it at him right in the chest.
All right. You miss the chest, and you actually hit the demon right in its eye. It totally is
I will
caught.
accept this.
It's totally caught off guard by that. It takes quite a bit of damage. It now has a dagger sunk in its eye, and it's like. At that point, Kung Fu, the compelling feeling that you had to give the pie to this thing, it's broken. You want to eat more of it right now. All right.
So I just get to sit down and start shoveling pie in mouth.
It's your turn, so yeah, if you want your action to be that, you can, but you can also just kind of nibble at it as a bonus action. I would allow if you wanted to do something else.
Yeah, I think I should be avoiding the demon taking the pie away as I nibbling as I walk.
Okay, well, walking, and then you can actually action eat it because you're just walking. So you move 30 feet
Can
away.
I run then? Can I run away from him?
Ooh, okay. Are you wanting to dash away with a pie that could jostle?
No.
Okay, so you slowly walk away
Yeah,
and then
but-
use your action to eat it. Okay. The demon then goes, and it looks, just insanely mad at the fact that it has a dagger in its eye. So it reaches up, grabs the hilt, and pulls it out, discarding it to the side, and then looks at the person who threw it, and then looks over to the pie, and then it snaps its eye back to the person who threw it, because when you stowed away the book, you didn't do so very, you did so that if you were doing this, it would be hidden, but you're now like this and throwing daggers, so it's just kind of sitting there like in your belt strap, and it looks directly at you with its one eye, and it says, the book, and it starts moving in your direction.
No, this is my book. It is not your book.
It takes a swipe at you, and it hits, and it deals.
There's now a cat bleeding out on the ground.
It deals 8 points of damage, slashing to your chest.
There is now a cat really, really poor condition.
Yeah. The once it's gotten closer to you, its skin is kind of like waxy. It's kind of like weird, and it seems to kind of like just instead of like sitting neatly on its face, it's kind of like wax peeling off of its skeletal features underneath. It has an almost porcine kind of look with these large nostrils, strange big ears, kind of like just jouting out to the sides. Fangs that are kind of just set inside of its gums, which also have kind of that bleeding effect that the rest of its face has. And the rest of its body, as it's kind of coming out of the boy's clothing, appears to be kind of like a greenish color. A nasty-looking demon, to be sure. Okay. It would go to... sorry, we've gone... Zach. It would... Sorry, I have it right here. Zach. So the last one is Popovich.
Nanny, what was that?
Birds floating over your head.
See, this reminds me of a joke. I'll use it one yet. What do you see when the Pillsbury Doughboy bends over? Donuts! Now laugh! And I swirl my hands around and zippity-doo through my hat and make it laugh hilariously.
Okay.
I'm confused about the donuts.
What's the Pillsbury Doughboy? If bends over, you see dough nuts.
I'm sorry, it's not getting through my cat eye.
Oh, right. There's no NPC to just sit here and explain it to you. Actually, the demon stops and he says, you see dough nuts, and he explains it to you. And you're kind of like, and this literal, like, just him doing this, like, because you see the creature start to go, and then he kind of looks over at you, and you ask him that question, and you seem to take the fun out of it. You just took the piss right out of the joke. He also made it safe. But yeah, that was kind of
that was the bigger thing.
You took the piss right out of the joke. I don't get it. Why are you trying to ruin everyone else's fun, man? It goes back up to the top, which would be Catman. But also at that point, you would feel an emotional ping from your familiar. Seems to be fear or kind of caution, and it seems to be kind of in the direction of the keep.
Okay.
As a quick question, what is around besides the swamp? Are there like any tree areas around?
Yeah, there's trees not too far from you. I'd say about 60 or so feet.
Okay, really quickly, I don't have the bone engage stuff yet. That's second level, right?
Yeah, you don't.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to action disengage, use my feline agility to run double speed.
You feel well, yeah, that's fine.
All right, did I already use that, or?
Use it last turn.
Right. In that case, I'm just going to run, like, that is hide-worthy, and see if I can bonus, or dang it, I can't bonus action stealth right now either.
Okay. If you
darn, first level.
action disengage, and then you kind of start darting. When you do, you kind of look back at it, and you see that it does take kind of a swipe at you, but it doesn't like swiping directly at you because you disengaged. You kind of backed up and then darted away. But it didn't seem to be swiping at you. It seemed to be kind of reaching to grab the book.
Right.
Yeah. The first attack, as you're kind of like reflecting upon it and running, panting, scared, you notice that the scratch marks are right above the book's location. Didn't seem to be really attacking you, but more trying to grab that book. Okay. Then we'll go to next on the initiative was Master Crown.
Fuck yeah. So, like, he's kind of picked up on what's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Killing the thing now. So, he'll, like, stand up on top of Victor, so he's basically riding his back, kind of throw his backpack and cloak off and say, "All right, Victor, we do this. Comrades, give me strength." And you see, like, a little glow around his body, and, like, his muscles kind of tone up a little bit. And Victor, like, just pushes his hooves just a little bit, like, revs up like a fucking horse about to take off, but it's kind of still slow because it's still a fucking turtle. Know what I mean? So, bonus action, Shield of Faith is what I'm doing. But, like,
Charging.
and you hear him dance like, "Kumate, kumate, kumate, kumate," as, like, the turtle slowly charges at the fucking demon thing, and as he gets, like, close enough where I can reach him, he jumps from the back of Victor and, like, slams down his fucking quarterstaff or tries to hit the demon.
You see,
That's like
everyone else sees this like just friggin' metal rock show going on top of this turtle. The turtle takes a good 5 seconds to move, like to where he needs to get to, and then he's like, "Ha ha!" You said you were gonna attack with your
quarterstaff.
Okay.
Both hands like double-handed, swinging down to like bash on his fucking head
You
as
bring,
I like dive.
you bring it down, but because like its quarry is like ran away, and you're making a lot of noise, it kind of looks back over its shoulder at you with its one eye, and it definitely sees it coming. You bring the staff down, and it takes the time to just kind of step back and watch it kind of hit the ground. You're now within 5 feet of it, though, if you want to use your bonus action to...
No, that was my bonus action was Shield of Faith, so my AC is up +2. So my action was to like attack.
How did you...
I have, because I'm a variant human, so I took Magic Initiate as my feat, and my first level spell is Shield of Faith, so I cast Shield of Faith as my bonus action.
Sick.
Yeah, dude, built a dope character.
That's fine. That sounds awesome. So then, yeah, you smash.
But like, as I miss with the attack, you see him like draw the quarterstaff, look the demon in the eye, and say, It's like totally his plan. I'm just getting his attention. Don't worry about the fact I missed. Like, I have you right in my sights.
The book's getting away. Yeah, you're winning. You're winning. The book got away. Then it went to Kung Fu, and you still have the pie in one hand, and you've moved away, but they've gotten a bit closer to you. I'd say they're about 20 feet away from you at an angle from where you started.
Keep moving away.
Just
this is my
got the pie. Yeah.
just keep going, like, eat pie, go.
You're pretty sure that if you take the pie, if you just set the shield down and just take the pie in one hand, you could probably use your trident with the other hand, or throw it if you wanted.
Oh, okay, yeah. Can I throw it at him?
Yeah. So you're just like you
aim for the other eye.
You set the shield down. You kind of take the pie and you kind of like eating it with one hand, and you just blind throw it, and it hits Master Crumb in the back. Zach.
Sorry, say that again.
So
you just got hit by a trident.
You got hit by a trident.
Fuck yeah.
So what happened was you were like fight ready. You got the staff and you're like and then the cat's running away. Kung Fu's kind of walking with the pie and the shield and like eating it like this. She goes, huh. She sets the shield down, puts the pie in one hand, and goes, ha ha. And she starts eating this, and then just blind throws her trident at the demon. It hits you in the back. You take 6 points of damage.
Sorry.
The trident hits your robes, and it kind of sticks in there. You feel the spines of it kind of pierce your skin a little bit, but now the trident just kind of waggling because of its barbs, like set inside of your robes. If you're going to get it out, you're either going to have to do very careful work to get it out, or you're just going to pull and rip a bit of your robes off. All right.
Fair enough.
Next up is the demon, who goes, kind of laughs.
Now Dasha's hideous laughter takes effect.
When it, yeah, it's a delayed magic spell. It looks at the situation and kind of looks over towards the cat. It teleports 20 feet towards him, just bamf of black smoke, and then it starts kind of trundling towards you in like a almost. It gets its hands down basically in the dirt and starts coming after you.
Gorilla style?
I'm a very fierce warrior.
Like a gorilla?
Yeah, like a gorilla. Thank you. And gets right up to you. It'll go ahead and take another swipe at you.
Of course it would take another swipe at me.
Raises
Obviously the most intimidating.
It raises its hand up and kind of comes in. As you kind of turn around to kind of like engage with it to defend, it kind of stops the swing mid-swing and tries to reach in and grab at you, and you're kind of like, no. As it tries to grab the book. It misses. It goes to last on the list, Popovic.
Try. Ox! We got it! We got the book snatcher over here! Come and get him!
As you're looking around, you see that there are a couple of orcs, mainly the one in full plate with the flail, and he's running like this. Oh!
It's the demon kid! He's trying to take the book! We got it off of him! Attack him! And then I go, watch me now! Wah! Boom!
What are you casting?
And conjured up fire in my fist and throw a bolt at it.
Firebolt. All right. You fire a bolt of fire, and
Oh
You hit the cat.
you miss. You miss
no!
wide. It doesn't hit the cat. It doesn't hit the anything. It just goes off. But then you see like it hit like off in the distance, and then you just start seeing this smoldering like burning in the background in the trees.
Don't worry, you only hit a boat.
This is going so poorly.
No, it's going pretty good for me. Like I'm having a fun time.
I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong.
Fair enough. It's not ideal. Matt,
Well, I am feeling slightly cornered, so I would like to actually take the book and I will try to throw it over to the short wizard man.
Oh no.
okay. He's some 40 or so feet away. You kind of take the book.
Is there anyone
App,
closer
app,
to me?
app, 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 app.
Okay.
You take the book and you go "Whoa," like that, and it goes as it opens up and starts like that. You see notes kind of flipping out the sides, and it just kind of 10 feet away from you hits the ground.
And then I would like to stab the demon. I don't know if I can do that in the turn.
Okay. Well,
Or could I bonus action offhand? Yeah, like I want to just like take my one of my daggers and just stab the demon while
yeah.
right after I do that. Just
That's perfectly fine. You kind of draw the dagger out, bring it in, and you swing in like this, trying to kind of cut at him, and he kind of pulls back with his weird looking face and gets his arms in tight like this, like a boxer's. You cut across the arms, but it just seems that this is hardened armor on his back arms, and it doesn't seem to wound him. All right, and then it would go to Master Crown. You're about 30 feet away from him or so. You should be able to.
So I need to get up to him. I'm gonna charge him, doing the same thing, but this time on foot, so it's significantly faster. And I'm gonna try and I'm going ham, swinging the staff and trying to punch. Let's do this thing.
Okay. So you would go with the staff first.
Yes, sir.
All right. You kind of bring it in, and the swinging wide kind of creates this loud whooping noise, which seems to get his attention. He drops low in defense, and then you come in with the fists. Are you going full key flurry?
No, just trying to. I don't have key yet. That's level 2.
Oh, is it? You don't flurry of blow?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I haven't played it.
No, I can bonus action offhand, use an unarmed attack.
Yeah, level 1
but
is
I can't
not
do
much
more
we
than
can
one.
do.
You still do a D6 on your unarmed, right?
D4
Okay,
right now. Instead of 1 point of damage, I do a D4 of damage
gotcha.
plus my dex,
Which
which
is
is plus 3.
right. Okay.
Well,
You-
if it-
Go ahead. You come in, you kind of swing the staff wide, then you kind of snap in low and bring your foot up to kind of catch it in the face. You kick its teeth in a bit. You see a couple of them spit out as you bring your foot back in, curling it with a snap kick. And looks like you kind of caught him. He's looking at you pretty angry, but he's also focusing on the book. All right, then it goes to Kung Fu. You're now about 50 feet away from it. You were 20 before, it moved 30 away. Your trident is still hanging on the back. As he kind of ran over there, spun the staff, and did this cool kick, you just see this bobbling trident stuck to his back.
Doesn't even respond to it.
It's not in you, it's just in your robes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just saying he doesn't
yeah,
respond as it's flopping around
fair. What would you like to do? You still have the pie as well. I'd say about about a quarter of it remains.
A quarter of it. I take it I'm still very much in love with eating the pie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you took the action to eat it, you could down the rest of it now.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Okay. You spend the turn
Stop
kind of
there and yeah, just we're just gonna shovel.
Yeah.
I'm far enough away.
as you're eating the pie, you hear these boot falls, and you kind of look up from the pie and see that these 3 orcs, one with a spinning flail and 2 with swords, are kind of running towards you. Looks like they're not running at you specifically, but running past you. and
We
then
went that way.
it goes to it. It really wants that book. It's actually going to like just go full bore. Go ahead.
Do I get a chance to swipe at it while it's running away from me?
Oh, it's not running away from you.
I thought you said it was running towards the book.
Oh, you threw it.
I
Yeah.
threw the book. I
Right,
threw the
so
book
we
at-
should all get a chance to fucking beat this thing as it charges off.
Yep, that's true. I'll use these dice that I just rolled the 2 attacks that I was going to murder Matt with to attack myself. You swing with your dagger again, and it still had its arms up when it was doing it and kind of looked over at the book, kind of pulled away. You kind of try and stab in, but as it's moving its arms, where you thought you were going to stab in between its hands, you catch an arm instead. And then the quarterstaff comes whopping around as it turns around, and you hit it square in the back of the head with a 2-handed. And it kind of just glancing blows on it, kind of knocks its head forward a little bit as it kind of moves on. It does about 4 points of damage, and or sorry, 5 points of damage. It kind of moves over to the book, reaches down, and grabs a hold of it, and then it teleports.
Does this count
Hold
as a win?
Hold on, real quick. So, Popovic, you see it teleport and disappear. And everybody else, you guys see it teleport and disappear. But Popovic, as you kind of see it teleport and disappear, you look over and you see that it's just standing in a bush with a book in its hand, like this. And it's kind of like looking at you, and it's kind of like lowering itself down into the bush slowly.
Get it! It's over in the bushes!
It's your turn, by the way, if you want to do something.
I see, girl.
It definitely looks like it's not very happy, too, also. You guys beat the crap out of it.
Well, I was about to shoot I thought better of trying to use my hat to cast Mage Hand on it, because I don't think it's strong enough to pull the book from its fingers. So instead, I'll whip out this bell out of my little component pouch in front of me and go, ding, 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 and toll the dead.
That's a wisdom saving throw?
I believe so.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I failed it.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
12.
Yep. All right. You guys see him go, he's over there! Blah, 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 blah. Starts ringing this bell in his hand. And you see this big, large, black, necromantic bell appear above this bush and go, dong! And as it does so, you see this demon snap up with a book in his hand and go, ah! and fall out of the bush, dead.
Beautiful.
The bell kind of... The tolling bell kind of sits there for a second, and then it kind of wisps away and becomes a raven and floats off. And then the dying demon kind of starts turning into this black ichor and kind of evaporating into the air. The book remains untouched out in front of it.
Hootenanny, fetch!
All right. At that, you guys see the two orcs running with swords. They draw their swords out and they kind of start looking to everybody like they're going to start fighting if stuff starts going south. And the dude with the flail starts just dashing towards the bush with orc aggression and gets to the book and reaches down and grabs it, still spinning the flail.
I would like to ask, are there any pages on the ground that perhaps...
Notes. Yeah, the pages didn't flutter out. There were like notes inside that Kelgar probably put in that were thrown out when it was flung.
I would like to see if I can spot any that they might not notice and just when they leave, start to casually go over it, pick it up.
You see them, but you also see that everybody else is kind of looking at them as well, especially the two that just ran into the group. It doesn't look like any of them got away until you kind of look off to the side and you see what's basically equates to a post-it note that's kind of hanging in a branch near the bush that the big orc is walking away from now, still spinning his flail and screaming, "Arr!" And he's got the book in his hand. "Arr!"
I would like to go over and pretend like I am expecting the dead body of the demon and just casually take the note and stick it in my...
You walk over there and you're kind of like, oh, this is very interesting. Then you stop and you go. And no one notices. No one notices.
Oh, goddamn
See,
time.
the problem is like you're if someone were actually looking at you, they would know you're stealing shit because you don't make it like you're like very very obvious. But the thing is if you roll good, it works. So yeah, you snatch the note and you have it. The two guys kind of walk over to you guys, looking about, and says, "Inspector, you said something when we were running up. What did you say?" Hey, wait, hold on.
Danny.
As you walk over, you hear as the guy with the flail's still wandering towards the key with the book. The other guy that you're not talking to is reaching around, grabbing up the notes, and he says, "What did you say when we were running up?"
I was the demon had taken the book and we were trying to keep it from going away with it, and now it's back in your safekeeping, and I'm glad that job well done today.
You said
Good job, sirs.
You said you were part of the guard when you came down, so we trust your word. In fact, we should offer you a reward.
Thank you. Much obliged.
If you're interested, we'll go ahead and allow you to cut in line and have one of our fine pies.
Oh, I would love to.
Does that count for all of us in the group, or is it just for him?
Wait. Yeah, you hear that. You hear that, Kung Fu, and you're like, and you hear the question that Plays with Mice just asked, and that is literally the only question that matters anymore in your life. Do we get one too?
Pie?
And as a matter of fact,
We don't.
you all do. They lead you down into the keep, and they give you one of the pies, and you kind of head out back to your boat, and eat your pies. So go ahead and set your level to 3. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. That would be the end of the first of the MattQuest. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, all that nonsense. Thanks for watching, whoever was. And bear with me here for a second.
This one?